Today we're interviewing Anna Stork, the co-founder of LuminAID. It's a pleasure to be interviewing you today. My name is Sarish Jasti, and I'm a rising senior at Homedale High School, and I'm the founder of CompanyRoots.
My name is Raul Kavoru. I'm a rising sophomore at St. Paul School and the vice president of CompanyRoots. Before the interview, we just wanted to thank you for taking your time. The first question that we always ask is, what was your CompanyRoots and how did they help you get into LuminAID?
So do you mean how I started LuminAID, how we began?
Yeah, like what was your background and story behind that?
Sure. So first, thanks for having me. It's really nice to meet you both and to talk to you both. So my background is, let's see. So I grew up in Massachusetts. I grew up in a town called Sherburne, Massachusetts. And while I was in high school, I was really interested in science and really also interested in design. So from a really early age, I was always really interested in both of those two things, science and design. I went to Dartmouth and I decided to major in engineering and modified it with studio art. So it was like a combined engineering modified with studio art. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I decided to go to architecture school to pursue my master's in architecture because I thought that architecture was just a nice kind of next step in terms of combining my interests both in engineering and then also in design, mm-hmm. and being a good kind of hybrid of what I was interested in. And it just so happened that while I was in architecture school, it was the second year in January 2010 when I was getting a master's in architecture, and the earthquake in Haiti just occurred right outside of Port-au-Prince. And so it was there when my now business partner, Andrea, and I, we were sitting next to each other, and we were looking at the conditions on the ground after the earthquake, and we decided to focus our whole semester on designing a portable solar lighting product, and that's how we started LuminAID.
All right. So just a quick question about like architecture and kind of taking it into college as well. So you graduated with an education in architecture. What type of student would you recommend this as a career path for, and what qualities really helped you in this field?
Let's see. So, one of the things that I think really helps in architecture school is a very good sense of design. So you do have to have a really strong interest in design, but it also really helps to have a good foundation in math and engineering because you want to design. There's a lot of emphasis on designing sustainable buildings, designing structurally sound and structurally smart buildings. And there's even like more and more emphasis on like combining computer programming with architecture and actually like making more algorithmically based buildings that are kind of like fundamentally smarter in how they're designed, whether it's like structurally or with sustainability in mind. So I think it's really important. First and foremost, you have to be interested in design because that is fundamental to architecture. Is you really need to love architecture, how buildings are made, how space is created. But then it's really helpful also to have that foundation, I think, in engineering and math and that interest as well.
Yeah.
So on Shark Tank, you got 5 offers, which is something that people do in the show's history. So how did your relationship with Mr. Mark Cuban work out after the show, and what aspects did he help you with?
We are really glad that we chose Mark as our investor. Going in, we were not expecting 5 offers, but we were really happy that Mark was one of them and that we chose Mark. He's been a really good asset to LuminAID. He has a good team of people that facilitate different types of connections for us and also provide a lot of guidance for us on like the business development side. So if we're like looking for if we're thinking about a new sales channel, they might provide feedback on that. Or if we're thinking about like a new path for our products, they'll provide feedback on that. And so we're in really close communication with them and really close communication with Mark. Whenever we have a problem or whenever we have a question, he's responsive within the same day. Like he always is very responsive. So I think that's very very telling about how much he cares about his investments, because he has so many, and yet he is able to respond within, a few hours, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah. So what is one of the types of aspects that you've really focused on with Mr. Cuban, and like something that you've really built from where you started with him to where you are now?
Let's see. One of the things that Mark Cuban and his team have really helped us on is a couple different things. Like, one of the early pieces of advice Mark gave us was to focus on innovation. So like, don't get stuck on comparing yourself to the competition, but really try to like think ahead and think beyond kind of your immediate what's around you in terms of products and other companies. So try to think about like what's next and really push yourself. And that has been incredibly beneficial to our company, just to have that mindset of not to benchmark ourselves against our competition or against other products, but really try to think outside the box and think what's next and what's new and what could provide value to our customers. So that's a piece of feedback that he gave us early on, and something that we really took to heart. And we've tried to really think about that in developing our products and just pushing forward.
Yeah. So speaking of innovation, your company sells a variety of products such as solar phone chargers and portable solar lanterns. So what was the process like in creating these different products, and what's your most popular product right now?
That's a really good question. So I'm on the product development side. So I work really closely with our factories, with like R&D, and we have a really small team. We have only 8 people. So everyone wears like a lot of different hats. But I'm on the product development side. So we'll prototype a product here, we'll test it out, we'll make sure all the specifications are mapped out exactly how we want it to perform and how we want the customer to use it, and we'll design it, and then we'll work really closely with our factory in a process of getting samples and testing those samples, and then doing a pilot run with them and testing the pilot run. So that's kind of the process of launching a new product for us. And then there's a whole side of the marketing team as well, like thinking through the marketing of the product launch and all of that. And yeah, it's a really exciting process. And right now, our most popular product is the phone charger product. So we have a couple different phone charger products, but basically the most popular product is called the Max 2-in-1 phone charger, and it's both a lantern and a phone charger. So let's see, actually, I have one here. Let me just make sure. Yeah. So this is actually one of our newest products. It's called the Titan.
Yeah.
It's available at REI right now. And so it has a phone charger port here, and then you actually just you open it up here and you can twist it closed like that. So that's one of our newest products that we're excited about.
It's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah. And you just turn it off like that.
Yeah. So right now, LuminAID looks to partner with a lot of nonprofit organizations across the world. So in what type of scenarios in these third world countries is LuminAID actually used in?
So we have shipped to, I don't know the exact number, I have to look it up, but definitely over like 40 or 50 different countries at this point. We really shipped to many different countries around the world. And we've worked with a lot of different organizations doing many different things, from building schools in, really remote regions that don't have access to electricity, all over Africa and different parts of Asia and South America, just very diverse locations, from also hospitals in very remote areas that don't have electricity, to refugee camps where people have been displaced and need a safe light source. So we work with large organizations that distribute, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of units of supplies, as well as smaller organizations that are doing really incredible work as well, but on the smaller scale.
So in specifics, how did your partnership work out with companies and charities such as Supreme and Shelterbox?
So that's interesting because those are like two very, very different types of channels for us. But so let's talk about Supreme. So Supreme is, our company has many different sales channels. So Supreme is an example of a B2B sale. So it's business to business. So we sold to Supreme. We basically, we made them like a custom design for a LuminAID light. And so they like printed Supreme all around it. It had like a red handle, red coloring. Like Supreme is pretty great in terms of branding and brand awareness, as so many people know. So we worked with them on a custom limited edition light, and they sold it in their store. So we do a lot of like corporate. We sometimes do limited edition designs like that with companies, and we work with a lot of like corporations. And also organizations to like print logos on lights, and they'll give them to like their employees or things like that. So that's like one kind of, a couple different sales channels for us is defined by what I just described. And then in addition to that, we work with organizations like Shelterbox, and Shelterbox is they are a nonprofit organization based out of the UK, and they distribute relief supplies as well as many other really necessary items for those affected by disaster. So we also will sell directly to Shelterbox, and they'll distribute it. So LuminAID, we have quite a diverse like group of customers, from Supreme to organizations like Shelterbox.
Yeah. So on another side of the spectrum, really, what do you do in a day-to-day basis in your office? Like with you having a whole job and more of like innovation. So
yeah, on a day-to-day basis. So for me, like I will work with our China team. So we have a team based in China, and that's where all of our manufacturing is, and we actually ship out a lot of product from China directly to our customers from there. So I will work closely when I wake up with our team in China to coordinate either production runs or quality control or new product development, like all the different, those are kind of the different aspects of my role. And then I'll work during the daytime on also like new product development here with our US team. So we'll like work on designing new products and thinking through new products here and prototyping them here, as well as like testing products, looking at like customer feedback, and also like just getting feedback from our team here as well. So that's typically what my role consists of.
So you focus more on like the product development. So does your partner Andrea, what exactly does she focus on?
So the way that we've split it up is I work more on like product development and supply chain, so product development, supply chain, and logistics are kind of all things that I touch on a day-to-day basis closely. And then on the other side is Andrea, and she works on the financial piece and the marketing piece. So those are the aspects that she touches.
Do you currently have any opportunities for college students or even high school students to pursue like a free or a paid internship in LuminAID? And if so, what qualities do you look for when you hire these students?
Yeah, we definitely do. Every summer we hire a group of interns, and I think we look for people that are very self-motivated, that are driven, that are kind of go-getters in terms of like figuring stuff out, and problem solving is really helpful. If someone can kind of be able to sift through something and figure it out a little bit and put connect the dots themselves is a really good sign that they'll be a good asset to our team, as well as someone who's like open to feedback, who's like a quick learner for our different like systems and processes. And it's really helpful if also someone's like good at software and because we use a lot of different softwares here at LuminAID, so that's also always a plus.
So we always end the interview off on the same question. What specific strategies would you give to the next generation of entrepreneurs and leaders looking to succeed in high school and beyond?
Let's see. I think one of the things that I did really early on is I always, whether it was, so in high school, I did an independent study for, I think like 2 semesters where I like researched, I was really interested in astronomy. And I researched all the different like observatories across the Southwest, and developed and actually like designed and built my own telescope as like part of my research project. So I like carved the mirror by hand, and I like made the lenses by hand. And I did so that was in high school. And then at Dartmouth, I did something very similar where like I had my own independent study. I worked at the Army research labs in Natick, Massachusetts, like researching new technologies. And I tried to do this combined major of engineering and studio art. And in architecture school, it was very similar, where I tried to kind of like carve my own path within architecture school and kind of pick and choose the courses that were best for me, even though like they may not have totally made sense to someone like from the outside. And I think that my advice to someone in high school is to kind of pick and choose your courses and your independent studies, and to take any opportunities that you can to pursue what's interesting to you, even if like you don't really see how the dots connect. Like it really worked out kind of amazingly that the dots do connect really well for me when I look back and I like see how everything made sense. But at the time I wasn't so sure. So you kind of have to trust that in the end, like the dots will make sense.
And for people like me who are starting to apply to college now, like I'm sure everybody's done like these random things from freshman to senior year. And
Yeah.
Just because I'm thinking about how I'm going to shape my essay now and everything, I'm trying
Yeah.
to connect in a way. And
Yeah.
Actually, so that's
That's very true. Like you have to figure out how to tell your story and how it defines you a little bit, but I'm sure you guys have some really interesting paths and interesting stories, especially since you're doing this.